I want to thank you for taking the time to learn more about my story. I know most of you know what happened to me in 2020, but in this presentation, I'm going to pull the curtain back a little bit more, give you some details you may not know, hopefully impact some lives. And I'm also going to thank some specific people in this video, but I want you to know that just because I didn't thank you specifically does not mean that I don't realize how much you've meant to me, because there's plenty of people that deserve to be thanked here. And I want to thank each and every one of you. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm not sure who said this, but if you're afraid to live your life because you might die, then you've already died. That's the way I've always tried to live life. I am not scared of dying. I am scared of struggling. I am scared of pain, but I'm not scared of dying. And like I said, that's the way I live. In February of 2020, man, 2020 was going to be such a great year. I bought my first Harley and I rode it everywhere. If you saw me around town in February of 2020, all the way through August of 2020, you saw me on my Harley. Part of my life in 2020 was impacted by two very special, I call them MVPs in my life. There's several people in this room. You guys are MVPs also. But as I tell you this story, you're going to be hearing the names Sil and Rona quite a bit, and they really are MVPs along with you guys. More MVPs, my Special Olympians. A lot of you know I coach Special Olympian golf and basketball, and these guys are so inspirational. These Special Olympians, they live every day of their life out of their comfort zone. They are the definition of grateful, and I love them so much. They're just fantastic. And here's another picture of me coaching the basketball team in the regional competition. That's in early 2020, and we were headed to state. Everything was going to be great. Here's another picture of a very special night, the most special night that I can remember in a long time. This is the Special Olympics Gala in 2020. These are some of my favorite basketball players. And that night, I was very, very extremely honored to be recognized as the 2020 Special Angels Among Us Community Award winner by the Special Olympics delegation here in Allen. That was February 15th, 2020. Everything was going great. It was going to be a great year. I was also very, very happy to continue my Allen Fairview Chamber sponsorship of the First Responders Award. If you know me at all, I'm very passionate about first responders, and I continue to honor those local first responders that are true heroes. And I thank the Allen Fairview Chamber not only for their support of me, but them allowing me to show my support of these first responders. Well, as all of you know, I got a dog. March 24th, 2020 was my first day with Rona. Now that was 5 days after Governor Abbott mandated that the bars and the restaurants close, along with other businesses due to COVID-19. And I was very, very, very fortunate to get Rona. And like this slide says, see those two shoes right there? I am still searching for one of those shoes. Rona has hidden one of those shoes in my apartment, and I still can't find it to this day. Once again, that was in March. Well, here's what happened that same week. That same week, I started developing a very minor cough. No big deal, but I went back through my text messages, and my cough had started developing actually in March. I thought it was in May, but it was actually in March. I still wasn't too worried about the cough. I wasn't too worried about COVID. I started my scavenger hunt for paper goods to give to those who were compromised and couldn't get out. If you remember all the way back, about a year and a half ago, people started hoarding toilet paper. And you couldn't find toilet paper or Kleenex or any of these paper goods. So I started my scavenger hunt for all of these paper goods and was distributing them to strangers, basically, to people I didn't know that couldn't get out for themselves. And I really took an immense amount of pride and found purpose in doing that. About a week after I started doing that, my cough kept getting a little bit worse maybe. I don't know for sure, but I did find this picture. It was about the last week in March. I started taking my temperature because I started to worry a little bit about getting COVID. And back then, the signs of COVID were a fever, and you couldn't taste or smell. You lost your sense of taste and smell. So I actually took my temperature every morning, and I started smelling things like bleach, things I knew that had a scent that I could figure out whether I lost my sense of taste or smell. So I would try and rule out COVID every single day. I also got an inhaler just in case, and the inhaler is a long, long story. I will tell you more about that later. We don't have time to get into this right now, but just in case, I got the inhaler. So I was a little bit worried about COVID, but I pretty much ruled it out. And once I ruled out COVID, I continued my scavenger hunts. I continued looking for toilet paper and Kleenex around the Metroplex. I also took my show on the road. I bought a bike, and I was going to start riding the trails of Allen, the bike trails. Allen has some great trails, and I started riding the bike trails. And once again, I was not going to let COVID mess my 2020 up. I was having a great time. Well, I started worrying more about COVID. Cough started getting a little worse. But instead of going to the doctor, what did I do? Bought a humidifier, because that's what every normal person does when they start developing a cough during COVID. They get a humidifier. So that's what I did instead of going to the doctor. And I continued searching for toilet paper for strangers. I masked up, I biked up, got on the motorcycle, and started riding around all the small towns around North Texas because I realized that you could find toilet paper in small towns. So I rode my motorcycle and looked for more supplies for strangers. Here's me in Princeton. I also started taking a spin class, and I was coughing, but I started taking Syl's spin class. My brother Joel, who you'll hear more about later, actually blamed Syl and her class for almost killing me. But we'll get into that a little bit later. Here's a picture from an axe throwing party, and I was crowned King of the Axes. And I'm not sure if the people in this picture knew it at the time, because I was really trying to hide the cough, and I was fighting the cough. But I was starting to struggle at this point, but I wasn't letting COVID get in the way. And once again, it wasn't COVID. I should say I wasn't letting the cough get in the way. I also continued to walk golf courses. Okay, now here's the deal about walking the golf courses. My rule in the summer of 2020, and Eric Hoyle knows this, and I walked plenty of golf courses with Eric and Denise Hoyle, and they need to be thanked specifically for what they did. If we teed off and the temperature is less than like 91 degrees, we walk the course. So I walked plenty of golf courses. The other thing that I was doing, and these people definitely don't know this because I didn't get to meet a lot of these people, but I was helping the people at Christian Community, or the Christian Cares Assisted Community, Assisted Living, and it really gave me a sense of purpose, and I really thank them and Jan Jungman for allowing me to help them out. Here I am climbing ladders and painting some stained glass windows. Here's a summer concert for the people that were allowed to get out, and man, I really, honestly, I enjoyed every minute of that. I really did. I'm trying not to get emotional about it, but I really enjoyed it. Now, here's where it gets serious. And you've heard me mention Syl. And Syl and I had lots of text messages. And what I would try and do with Syl, she was pretty much one of the very few people that I would even come close to complaining to. I don't like to complain. At least I think I don't like to complain. And she knew how bad my cough was. And she knew that I was struggling. And whenever she would text me, she would ask me how the cough is, and I would try and change the subject. And so this text, she said, "How's the cough?" I just said, "It comes and goes. Right now it's gone." And she was having car problems at the time. So I changed the subject by saying, "How's the car?" And so I changed the subject. That's just one example of me doing that. And the next day, she texted me and asked me how the cough was. And I told her straight out, that I'm definitely not complaining, but you're not going to believe it. I pinched a nerve in my upper back because I was coughing so hard. The pain is incredible, but I'll be okay until I'm not. And that was some foreshadowing. It really was. She said, well, how are you feeling? And I just didn't even answer. I said, tell me more about your day. She said, only after you tell me how you're feeling. I said, I'm good. Please tell me more about your day, basically. And she said, I'm not buying that answer. Well, the next day is the day I checked myself in. I checked myself in that afternoon. And I'll be honest with you, I really don't remember these text exchanges. But it was very shocking when I went back and I looked at them, because this is the morning I checked myself in. And it started with a text message from her at 7:42. Now you got to understand, I usually wake up around 5 in the morning. And she says, how are you doing today? I'm seriously, seriously worried about you. An hour and 4 minutes later, I text back, which two things are odd about that. It wasn't taking me an hour to respond to Syl's texts because I knew she was worried about me. And then my text back to her at 8:46 was, I'm good. I will text you when I wake up, meaning I was still asleep. And I never slept. I never slept past 5:30. So that's very odd for me to be asleep. Well, that text led to this. And once again, I don't remember these texts. I texted her and I said, I've got an 11 a.m. telemedicine appointment with my doctor. It was a pretty bad night yesterday for me. And then I changed the subject. But you never told me about your great day. And she sent the text, Friedo, go to the effing doctor. Look at what you're making me do. I'm yelling at you now. Once again, I don't remember those texts. And when I go back and read, and these are just a handful of the texts, she really was an MVP. And I'm sorry for what I put her through with all of this. I made her my emergency contact at the hospital. Maybe we'll get in that later, maybe not. So basically, what happened was, later on that day, I don't remember this, but that telemedicine call led to my doctor telling me, go get a COVID test. I don't remember getting a COVID test, but I've got proof of it because on my phone is a picture that I took at the clinic where I got the test done. Then there was another text message to Syl of me telling her I don't have COVID. They want me to go get chest x-rays. I don't remember those texts. I don't remember getting the COVID test. I do remember this. Before I got the chest x-rays, apparently, I just drove myself to the ER here in Allen, and I checked into the ER, and I remember that. I remember checking in. I don't remember anything past that. The next solid memory I have is waking up weeks later in a hospital bed from a drug-induced coma. We'll get more into that later. But I wake up, and my brother, Joel, is in the room, and two more MVPs are my brother Joel and his wife Kellen. Real MVPs. Joel was in the hospital with me the entire time, and y'all know this. I was in a drug-induced coma on life support for close to 6 weeks. And Joel, based on an idea that Kellen had, set up and Kellen set up the page, actually, the page that I'm sure all of you know, Update on Friedo, where Joel every day was putting an update on my status so people could check out and see how I was doing, rather than having to call him. And a lot of you have told me that you guys were waiting every day for Joel's update. So I want to thank them for doing that. Kellen was my medical advisor without me knowing it. She was on the internet all the time. The doctors would tell Joel what was going on. Joel would tell Kellen what was going on. And Kellen would look everything up and advise Joel what to tell the doctors and what questions to ask. I found all that out later. The other heroes and other MVPs are everyone else in my life. I mean, my gosh, you really realize and you find out the support that you have when something like this happens. And I want to thank all of you and plenty more, but I got to see this, and I got to see all the support I had, and I got to tell you, it was pretty great. And I felt the support. This next picture I'm going to show you is really the only picture I'm going to show of myself in the hospital, and this is by far the best picture I have, because I don't want you to see even an average picture of what I looked like in the hospital, because I looked awful. And this is honestly the best picture. That's how bad it was, and it was bad. And I didn't want to see anyone while I was in that condition. And this picture, believe it or not, I brushed my hair and I posed for it. That's how bad I was. The other thing about my hospital stay, and I'm going to try and do this without getting too emotional, but this lady right here is truly an angel on earth. I don't know how I would have made it through that hospital stay without Alicia. Alicia was basically a speech therapist. Her job was basically to teach me how to swallow again. I literally had to learn how to do lots of things all over again. One of them was swallow, food and drink and stuff like that. It only took this lady a day or two to teach me, but we struck up a relationship, and she kept me on her rosters as a patient, and she came and visited me every single day. She visited me when I got out of the hospital and went to rehab. I don't know how I could have made it without her. She was such an angel. And I'm not even touching the surface at about just how much this woman helped me and how great she is. And I owe her so much. And I'm just so thankful for her. I'm thankful for all the support I got from you guys. And there's so many individuals to thank. And like I said, I only touched the surface. But I hope that pulled the curtain back a little bit with you guys. And this last picture I'm going to show you is really the first really milestone. It's not the first, but the biggest milestone once I got out. And I got out of the hospital a couple days before Christmas. And right after the first of the year, I got reunited with Rona. And it was such a special moment. And I want to thank Lydia McMahon, who is not related to me, didn't know who I was. I was a complete stranger to her. For the most part, she's the mother of my nephew's girlfriend. And she took Rona in and kept Rona and took care of Rona. And I got to go over the house. I watched an Aggie game over there and got to be reunited with Rona. And it was such a special night. And that's basically my story. I'm still recovering every day, but that's me pulling the curtain back, and this has not been easy. It's really hard for me to do. I'm not really an emotional person, but it's been a very, very emotional year for me. So if you have any questions or want to make any comments, please feel free.